It allows for divorce and remarriage. Let's find out that Paul agrees with Christ and Moses. In other words, let's find out if God is consistent on this doctrine. That's what we're really asking. And I know that's almost blasphemous to ask God if He's consistent. Romans chapter 7, verse 2. For the woman which hath an husband is bound by law to her husband, so long as he liveth. Now, that sounds pretty plain, doesn't it? You're bound by law to your husband as long as he lives. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. What is she loosed from? The law that bound her to her husband, her oath, her accountability. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man. Notice this. Her husband's living, but she's married to another man. In other words, she's got two living husbands. Some people say, well, that was my first marriage, and that was all before I got saved, and all before this and before that, and God doesn't recognize that marriage because all He sees now is my present marriage. Wait a minute. If while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. The Bible recognizes you can have more than one living husband, one spouse at a time. You can have as many as you marry. So, those Hollywood stars, like Elizabeth Taylor, she's got who knows how, and we've lost track, haven't we? And so she's got all those who are still living. They're all still her husbands, and she's still married to another man when her other husband's still alive. And so, that's why Christ said to the woman at the well, go call your husband. She said, I have no husband. He said, you have said well. You have had 5 husbands. Now, does anybody want to stretch the point and say that this young woman who is obviously young enough to still go to the well, gather water, bring it back, that she had outlived 5 previous husbands? Now, that's stretching it, but we can agree it's not. Okay, let's say you have. But he said, the one you have now is not your husband. In other words, you're presently with a man who is not your husband. So, he showed her that she had 5 living, present husbands. Or, maybe not. We might disagree on that. But he did point out that she was an adulteress and presently shacking up the man. So, we find here, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Adulteress, if you're married to somebody else, when your former spouse is alive. No adulteress, if your former spouse is dead and you're remarried. Quite plain, quite simple. You can't get any more plain in Romans 7 here on this doctrine of marriage and divorce. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Every liberal's favorite chapter to go to with no understanding of the Bible and its doctrine on this subject. 1 Corinthians 7, verse 10. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband. Now there's the standard. No divorce. Don't depart. But if she departs, here's the exception. Let her remain unmarried. There's option number 1 if we are departed or divorced. Remain unmarried. Or be reconciled to her husband. Option number 2, reconciliation. And let not the husband put away his wife. I don't see option number 3, do you? I only see 2 options. To be reconciled or to remain unmarried. But to the rest, speak I, not the Lord. If any brother hath a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. If you're a believer, a Christian, and your spouse doesn't believe, you have no authority, no right to put away your spouse on the grounds that they're not saved, or that they don't believe. And the woman which hath an husband, which believeth not, if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. In other words, you cannot make somebody live with you in the same house. You cannot make somebody stay married to you if they want out. So, if they want to leave, now notice who does the leaving here. The unbelieving does the leaving, not the Christian. The unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases. Now, under bondage in what? Well, Paul told us in Romans 7, we're not under bondage, under law of the commitment of our marriage contract, of our marriage. From that, Paul said in Romans 7, if you're dead. So now, if the unbelieving depart, now for the divorce. Well, you have two options. Stay unmarried, or be reconciled. And so, for what knowest thou, O wife, whether thou shalt save thy husband? Or how knowest thou, O man? In conclusion here, in verse 39 of Romans 7, is bound by law as long as her husband liveth. Sounds just like Paul in Romans 7, doesn't it? But if her husband has liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. Our four definitions we start.